Hey there, Jen here, broadcasting, live from my living room slash studio space. And I'm just going to make a slight adjustment to my camera. That seems to be not happy where it is, but I think we're good now. So, checking my audio here. Yes, everything looks to be good. So, welcome to the last class in our stress proofing series. No worries again if you're joining live or watching this as a recording and you haven't watched any previous classes. While I am sharing the information in a series, layering on from one week to the next, you can still benefit from watching the classes out of order or even as just one-offs, returning to them at any point. All of these classes will continue to live on my Movement for Resilience YouTube channel, along with some other tools and practices to help you feel more resilient to stress. So here we are in the middle of December, especially if you're in Toronto. Today very much looks and feels a bit more like a December. It's quite chilly. And the holidays are literally around the corner. So I keep asking myself, how did we get here already? Now, the holiday season can bring up a lot for some of us emotionally. Even just saying the word holiday brings up some stuff for me. I can feel my guts start to twist up a little bit, and even my neck and shoulders get a little bit tense. So just take a moment and notice how the word holiday lands in your body. Just for a moment. Just notice. No unpacking. The stress and overwhelm of planning, gift buying, being around family can really make this time of year feel even more draining and chaotic for some of us. And that's really no matter how you identify with the season. And of course, this year we're dealing with the added challenges that come with the pandemic. There will be new firsts for many of us, I'm sure. And with new firsts in mind, I'd like us to consider that part of stress proofing involves setting boundaries for ourselves, which will inevitably help lighten the stress load. And the holidays are as good a time as any to start doing this if you haven't ever done this before. So when we can set our boundaries around things like buying gifts, sending cards, decorating our homes, and even around how we will connect with our loved ones this year, whether that's online or at a safe distance outside the home. Those are just a few examples. There's many, many more. And setting boundaries really starts here. This requires checking in with yourself every day. It requires having a clear sense of whether you want to say yes or no to the invitations, requests, and even unspoken expectations coming at you from people in your life. You know, those unspoken expectations. And if you've been following along with these classes, you are well on your way to cultivating self-awareness. And I encourage you to continue a daily check-in practice, like the one we've been exploring, or a variation of it, to simply record your body sensations, thoughts, and feelings. If you're short on time, maybe it's just a 1-minute check-in to notice and record how you feel on a scale of 1 to 10. If you have more time after a check-in, perhaps it's returning to any one of the movement or self-regulation practices I've shared and notice your before and after states. And that's where we're going to go now. Just as a quick reminder, for the next hour or so, give yourself permission to have your own experience in your body, in your own way, no matter what I'm offering. And doing so from a place of non-judgmental curiosity and kindness. So as we always begin in these classes, we'll start with our 5-point noticing activity. So go ahead and grab a pen or paper, your journal, or any other note-taking device so you can document what you notice. Of course, we can just do that in our mind as well. This is just a really quick check-in. If this is your first time, you just need to jot down a word or two describing what you're noticing in this moment about yourself. And if nothing comes to mind or you're not sure, that's totally fine. Just notice that too. And skip any of the noticing points that you feel are not meaningful places for your attention to be today. Again, this is completely optional. You can always skip ahead if you're watching the recording and go directly into the movement practice. So let's arrive here together in our digital spaces. Start to tune into your body and mind, just becoming more self-aware. Maybe wiggle and jiggle the body a little bit, shift and rock on the hips, lifting up the shoulders, maybe making some circles. And maybe you invite a little bit more of an exploration in your body, something that's a bit bigger. Maybe reaching the arms out wide towards your ceiling, out in front towards my screen, twisting, stretching, maybe finding a little length on one side of the body. If you find a place that sort of feels nice to pause in for a moment and just sort of hold on to that stretch, feel free to do that. Just sort of keep moving around. I call this intentional squirming. So it's just having a little bit of a conversation with your body, your mind, a little assessment, self-awareness this morning. So keep moving if it feels good to keep moving. I'm going to start us into our noticing practice. So to begin, noticing your mind, observing the quality of your thoughts, mental focus, clarity. We feeling clear-headed or foggy today? Somewhere in the middle. Next, your body. What sensations are you most aware of in this moment? Maybe it's temperature, itchiness, tightness, tingling, pressure, all examples. And next, we'll begin to examine our breath a little bit. Where are you experiencing the breath most clearly in your body right now? Maybe at the tip of the nose, somewhere in the trunk, the belly. And we're not trying to manipulate or change your breath, just sort of notice where it is for you in this moment. Next, your emotions. What feelings are you most aware of? Examples of feelings might be feeling happy, angry, sad, surprised, also flat, not sort of feeling any sort of emotion at all. And then finally, your energy. How are you relating your energy in this moment? Feeling sluggish, a little bit more lively, fatigued, energized, maybe both at the same time. Now, with all that information at hand, let's again organize how we are in this moment on a scale of 1 to 10, using this scale just merely as a way to track our progress. So 1, feeling more spacey, shut down, disengaged, maybe experiencing a lot of tension in the body, sense of being closed off, low motivation. On the other side of that scale, a 10, maybe you're feeling really revved up, lots of energy, but kind of stuck with nowhere to go, can't really settle yourself. Thoughts might feel like they're racing a little bit, ruminating. Maybe you're sensing a bit of irritation or crankiness, even fidgetiness. And then the middle point, around 5, let's call that your Goldilocks state. I've used that before, but that place where that state of mind, that state of being, this moment for you right now is sort of like things generally speaking feel good and in control and settled at this point. You're not low motivation, you're not over the top excitement, you're just sort of here and present and ready to go. And again, if it feels useful for you, you can go ahead and share that number in the chat box if you like, but not necessary, totally optional. And we're going to get ready now to move into our movement practice today. And this movement practice is going to be mostly floor-based. I find it to be a really grounding practice, and we'll do a short meditation towards the end. So today, it will be handy to have 2 blocks or other sorts of objects that are heavy and can sort of support you or bring the floor up a little bit higher to you, but not necessary. I'm going to show some options using a chair. And then maybe some pillows or a bolster, and perhaps some additional padding like a blanket or something for your knees. So as I reorient the camera, you can just get closer to your mat if you're not there already. And we're going to start in standing, and then we'll move to the ground. So I'm going to try not to shake this camera too much. I don't want to make anybody dizzy. Bear with me. Close your eyes if you need to. Look away. And once I get this in place, I think we're good. Just drop that a little bit so you can see a bit more of the floor. So we're going to spend a lot of time here. And I've also included a chair. And again, I will show you some alternatives for the movements we're doing today. If you decide to explore on a chair, such a great tool, not just for sitting in, also for practicing in. Okay, so starting off with some shaking. If you sort of reported in your inquiry about yourself that you felt a little bit fidgety or a little bit high energy, nowhere to go, a shaking practice can be helpful to kind of discharge some of this accumulated energy or excess energy in your body. But it can also be a good way to bring some energy into the body if you also are feeling a little low motivated or a little disconnected today. So it's one of those practices that you can use for both scenarios and anything in between. So I'm just going to start by thinking about sort of sectioning my feet to my mat or the ground. And then I'm just going to start to bring this soft bending into my knee. Sort of bending into opposite knees. Just to start, noticing how it feels to bring just this little bit of movement into my lower body, expressed through that section of my feet into the floor. And then from there, you could start to speed up those knee bends a little bit more. I almost think about this like running on the spot, except I'm not using my feet. So if you think about those football players doing those types of activities, I sort of think about it like that. I don't know if that's helpful for you, but I'm just sort of running into my knees really softly, but quickly as you can in your body. And you could also imagine in doing so, you might even feel this. You could place your hands on your body, your upper body to notice this if you like. That there's sort of this element of almost fluidity about your muscles and soft tissues. Even you imagining your muscles and soft tissues sort of shaking off the bone. I'll come back here. So we could stay here. This might be if you are feeling a little low motivation today, and you want to sort of bring the energy in slowly. But we could also start to bring a little bit more so we can sense that shaking all the way up into our hip points. So thinking even more about suctioning into the ground, running out those knees, any speed. Looking to see if we can make this sort of less mechanical and allow for more of a ripple effect to travel up your body. And it may be very mechanical for you right now if you've never shaken like this before, and that's okay. Still shaking, it's all good. You can even bring in our arms now, so shaking our elbows and our wrists, I'm losing my words today. Just notice how that feels. I've been shaking for years, so if it looks really easy for me, it's a bit easier now because I've been doing this for a while. So don't feel too much challenge if it's not coming together for you in the way you think it's supposed to. Just think about shaking your body like you're trying to shake off excess stress or accumulated energy in your body. Just do this a few more moments. And I'm going to even bring this all the way up to my face. I call this the dog face shake. And I do make that noise. You can too. None of us can hear each other, so feel free. Okay, just a few more moments here, just sort of allowing that shaking to wash through you. And then just coming to a place, maybe there's some residual movement, just aware of the echoing of that shaking practice moving through your body. You might need to stay here for a few more moments. That's fine, stay as long as you like. I'm going to invite everybody now to come down to the ground in your own way. You could do that while rolling down the front side of your body, which we've done in other classes, or just making your way in whatever process gets you down there in your own way. So I'm going to drop my chin in towards my throat. I'm going to start to round out the upper part of my spine, my mid-spine, and into my lower spine, allowing my hips to shift. And I'm going to bend my knees a lot as I reach towards my mat and come down into all fours, and then I'm going to transition onto my bum. So it might feel helpful or supportive to bring your hips up a little higher. I like to bring my hips up on a couple blocks like this. You could do it on a pillow as well, or just keep the hips on the floor. We're gonna bring our heels to the space in front of us, and your feet can be as wide or as close as you like. You can edit that as we go. Hands will just be by the sides or a little bit back behind you to support you. Again, you could do this from a chair if you wanted to. We're just gonna think about starting to pivot on our heels any amount, and as we're pivoting, you'll notice that my knees and feet are pointing towards one side and then the other side of my space. So just imagine that you're almost trying to clean your screen with your feet. So flexed feet. And just noticing this action of pivoting on our heels and how that translates to movement up on our hips. And then from there, the next time the knees and the feet point towards one direction, putting our weight a little bit more into one of our support hands, the support hand on the same direction as the knees, starting to turn our spine, turn our torso towards the side of our room. Maybe that gaze goes even a little bit further back on the diagonal, maybe back behind. And then we'll come back through center, doing the same thing, starting to allow the knees to drop, body turns. Maybe the gaze goes even a little bit further. So we're just bringing some gentle movement into our spine while we move at the hips. I find when I'm doing this initial movement, I start to travel a little bit, and being on blocks or pillows get in my way. So it might feel a little bit more supported to come back down now. Just rolling the hips from side to side as we bring some gentle movement, rotation into our spine. And then you could also explore maybe reaching the hand and taking the gaze with it, any amount. Reaching across your room, maybe back to the diagonal, maybe further back. Maybe you're reaching up a little bit towards your ceiling, maybe back down towards the floor. Just exploring for a few more movements here. Gentle movement of the spine, rocking on the hips. Reaching if that feels good. Beautiful. Then when you're ready, in whatever way you like, let's come down onto our back. So just take a moment to notice how it feels to organize yourself lying down, looking up at your ceiling, maybe picking a point on your ceiling that you will keep your gaze on. And then from there, with our knees bent and our feet flat on the floor, let's just take one of our knees and bring it a little closer to our face, any amount. And we're just going to start to create some circles now with that knee. And again, as we create circles with the knee, noticing how that creates action at our hips or upper leg bone moving in the hip. Let's do a few in the other direction. And as you're doing so, noticing if maybe the whole body's coming along. And can you just see if you can keep this action of hip circling just in the hip? Everything else stays relatively still. And then we'll place that foot down, pause. Notice the differences between each hip. And then when you're ready, we'll bend that other knee in any amount and start to draw those circles with that knee. Doing a few in one direction, noticing if this side feels any different. And then in the opposite direction. Any amount, as much as you can. And then we'll place that foot down. Now, when you're ready, we're going to come into a position where we're lifting our hips off the mat. And to set ourselves up for that, we're going to, again, just reorganize your feet and your knees pointed up towards the ceiling. They might be a little wider than mine. They might be a little bit closer to. Doesn't matter. Do you. And from there, just start to press a little bit into your feet, seeing if you can press into the full surface of your feet, not more in the heels or more in the toes, but just somewhere where it's consistent weight distribution, lifting the hips just a little bit, almost like we're bouncing off the floor. And then from there, we'll bring our arms to lie at our sides, wherever they land. Palms can be up or down, doesn't matter, just somewhere where it feels comfortable and supportive for you. When you're ready, let's start to press into the feet. And as we do, start to float those hips a little bit higher, any amount, seeing how high you can bring those hips, but at the same time, feeling really heavy in the back ribs. So we're not arching into our chest. We're kind of keeping it really heavy, just thinking about lifting the hips. And then we'll allow the hips to come back down. Let's do that a couple more times, just getting a sense for this in your body. So pressing into the feet, lifting the hip points up any amount. See if you can even smooth out the creases on your pants as you do. Noticing how hinging at the hips this way and the support that our body needs to bring to this shape in order to lift our heavy pelvis. And you're not sure what's working there, bring your hands to the back side and just sort of feel all of that strength in you. And then from there, let's try another variation, see how this feels. So we're going to take away a little stability. I'm going to now bend my elbows and point my fingertips up towards the ceiling. So making these sort of robot arms. And just my elbows can be as far away or close to my abdomen as feels supportive. Just organize yourself like that again. When you're ready, same thing. Press into your feet, lifting the hips up, smoothing out the fronts of the hip creases, feeling really heavy on the back of the rib cage, and just moving through a few of these hip bridges in this position. Noticing if it feels any different than the first arm position. And then last exploration, we're now going to lift our arms up towards the ceiling and just take a notice Take a moment to notice how this feels. And thinking about feeling really heavy on the back of the hips or even the sternum drawing down towards your belly button. When you're ready, start to press into the feet, lifting up the hips and lower them back down. Do 2 more in this position, noticing how things feel here. And then we're going to do another, let's say 5 to 10 bridge lifts, whatever works for your body, but come back to a position with the arms where you felt the most supportive and where you could really focus on lifting those hips. So wherever that is for you, you could change it up while we go. Just go ahead and start to move through some bridge lifts, your own speed, your own time. Maybe noticing that one hip lifts a little bit sooner than the other, and can you bring both hips up together? Just a few more wherever you are. And then last one. And from there, maybe just shuffle the hips a little bit on your mat or your floor. Now we're going to come on to our side. So rolling onto one side, I'm rolling towards you so I can see you on screen, or I can see me on screen, pardon me. And I'm going to grab a few things to support me in this next position. So if you come into this sideline position, we're going to look at stacking our knees and keeping our pelvis so that our hip points are also stacked vertically. With the hand closer to the floor, it might feel good to bring it to support your head, but it may even feel better to kind of tuck it in a little bit closer to your body. It's okay if that shoulder is sort of like up in your neck, but it might also feel good to bring a bit more support to the head, whether with a block or even a pillow. And then from there, once you've sort of organized your lower body, so knees are bent, my knees are stacked, my hip points are stacked. And again, this lower arm, just position it in a place that feels good, supportive. And then I'm going to take my top arm and I'm just going to bring my fingerprints to my shoulder. And I'm going to start to draw some circles here. Just like we did on our backs, seeing if you can just keep this action in your shoulder. So moving the upper arm bone in the shoulder socket, go in the other direction when you're ready. And if you notice you're sort of coming forward and rolling back a little bit on that hip, can you stabilize yourself just a little bit more? And then from there, when you're ready, we're now going to bring more movement into our spine, and we're going to come into some windmills. So from here now, coming back to drawing those elbow circles, can you start to make it a little bit bigger? So now your armpit and shoulder start to open up a little bit more towards your ceiling. Just noticing how that feels. And allowing the hips to even fall back behind you and allowing those knees to separate. And then going in the opposite direction. And if this is feeling okay, maybe exploring this with a straight arm or straightish arm. Doesn't have to be fully straight. You could experiment with that elbow bend. And then when you're ready, the next time you come to that more open position, we're going to pause here in this reclined twist. And I'm going to bring this top arm off and away from my screen. So it may feel nice to have this arm elevated somewhat. If you have a block handy or other support, you could bring that hand to just lie on that block or even just onto your chest or on the floor beside you. Just really coming to pause for a moment in this twist. Just allowing your knees to separate, allowing your hips to land where they land. We'll just pause for a few moments, maybe a few breaths if that's available. If you're noticing any tension or niggliness in your low back, you might need to just adjust those legs any amount. Just play with that in your own body. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, we'll sort of come back to that one side. And I'm going to invite you now to roll onto your opposite side. And so I don't have my back side to you. I'm going to actually switch my body so you can watch me again here. And this time, if you didn't have your supports a little bit closer, apologize, I should have mentioned this. Maybe having that set up for yourself, whether you need it or not, it's there. And again, just taking a moment to find a comfortable spot, side lying position, whether that's bringing a pillow or a block under the head. And then just taking a moment to notice that your pelvis is vertically stacked. Your knees are also stacked. It also might be nice to put in a blanket between your knees if there's some tenderness there. And then when you're ready, again, bringing those fingerprints to the shoulder, just starting to invite those arm circles to start. Drawing circles any size on your ceiling with your elbow. Moving in the opposite direction. Trying to keep everything still except the movement of the arm in the shoulder. And then going back in the first direction, starting to invite a little bit more movement now of the spine, of the hips. So as we kind of open up towards our ceiling, our breastbone or sternum is more exposed. Our armpit opens up towards our ceiling, back behind us. Going a few of these in one direction and reversing that in the other direction. Again, maybe exploring that bigger arm windmill. And now if you notice when we came into the paused twist on the other side, it felt a little uncomfortable to be there in stillness. You could just keep doing these windmills. This is a really nice practice just to keep movement at any speed. So the next time you open up into that twist, just landing for a few breaths, for a few moments, coming out at any time, but just allowing your body to be comfortable in this twisted shape, or keeping the body moving in the windmills with the arm. Beautiful. And now when you're ready, we'll again just come now back to lying on our back. And once again, just allowing our body, our hips, our shoulders, our head to ground with the floor. Just notice the contact points between your body and the floor. Bending the knees up towards your ceiling, feet planted. We're going to come back to those hip lifts or bridges again. And I want you to come back to a place where the arms felt most supportive for you. And we're going to add in a layer of movement if you like. So just take a moment to find a position, do a few of those bridge lifts again. And then you could explore adding in a movement with the arms that is in sequence or in concert with the lifting of the hips. So I'm going to bring my hands down. As I lift my hips, I'm going to bend my elbows, fingerprints to the ceiling, hip points to the ceiling, and then lower everything back down. Or I could make that shape a bit different, where I lift the hips and now the fingers with extended elbows all the way up to the ceiling, and then lower everything back down. Just spend a few moments there, seeing which option you'd like to explore. Of course, you can go back to keeping the arms in a stacked position at any point. And if you want to maybe create a bit of a mind bender for yourself, you could also explore creating a little bit of asymmetry in your arm lifts. So as I bend an elbow, I'll lift an arm and the hips lift and I'll come back down. So I'm making a robot arm with one hand and reaching a straight elbow up towards the ceiling. Let's say we do another 3 to 5, wherever you are. And then when you're ready, just pause. You could bring your knees in any amount, maybe just sway or rock on your pelvis from side to side. You could also explore sort of rounding out the spine a little bit more and maybe creating a little bit of momentum with your feet. So now rocking up and down the spine from pelvis to the shoulders, any amount. From there, maybe creating enough momentum for ourselves to bring ourselves back to bring our feet in front of us, or arriving back to sitting position in any way that feels good for you. Just take a moment to come back to those windshield wiper actions of your legs. Notice how that feels. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into tabletop position, but we're going to do it slightly differently today. So again, padding under the knees. Collect your blocks if you have them, or if you've got textbooks or other sort of supportive tools that can sort of bring the floor up to you. If you don't have these tools, we can also do this with hands on the ground, or with a chair handy, we can also do it like this. Same thing, just different orientation of our body. So wherever you choose to be, just take a moment to organize yourself. If you're wherever your hands are, just take a moment to feel where it's most supported underneath your shoulders. Then we're going to come into some cat-cow-like movements. I'm going to start by tucking my tailbone under and rolling my spine up towards the ceiling, any amount, dropping my chin in, rounding out my neck, maybe looking between my knees. And then from there, starting to untuck the tail or send it out behind me, arching the spine now down towards the floor, gaze lifts any amount. Just moving between these two positions of a rounded spine and a more arched spine. Noticing how the spine feels as we move through. And then when you're ready, we're going to step one leg forward onto sort of the outside of one of the support hands. And that might be off your mat if you're using a mat. Or if you're like me, I'll turn this way. I'm creating a tripod situation for myself. So I'm making a bit of a wider step in this position. Again, we can do this on the chair. It's fine to leave that block there if you like, or just move it out of the way. When you're ready, you feel supported, sort of stabilizing into that support hand. Let's reach that free arm up towards your ceiling. Take your gaze up towards the ceiling. Maybe mark a point on your ceiling you're going to reach towards. And then from there, we're going to take that arm and we're going to sweep it down underneath us, between your hand and your leg, reaching back behind you. You could bend that support elbow any amount, reaching as far as you can, maybe marking a point on your floor. And then when you're ready, we'll press that block away or press that support away. Again, reaching up towards that ceiling. Find that point again, reach a little more. And then rounding the spine, curving the spine under. See if you can find that place on the floor again. You're going to reach to, maybe reach a little bit further. Take your gaze with, and then pressing the ground away as we lift up to reach. One more time, rounding under, reaching. And then from there, we'll come back to reaching up towards your ceiling. Find that point. See if this is the time you can almost touch it, really pressing the ground away through that support hand, reaching up with those fingertips. Just take a few breaths here. And then when you're ready, we'll lower that hand and we'll come back into that offset tabletop shape, whether on the knees or in standing. And this time, just changing the movement of our spine to something that's more lateral or side to side. So to start, I'm thinking about drawing my hip point, one hip point closer to the same shoulder. So I'm creating a shortness on one side of my body and lengthening out on the other. And I'll see if I can do that on the other side as well. Almost contracting or crunching on one side while I lengthen towards the other. And then just moving between these two positions. You might notice your gaze is sort of slightly moving off your mat. That's totally fine. And then you could stay here, moving the spine from side to side bending. Or you could try now rounding the spine out, so like our cat position. And I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to try to bring my one hip to my armpit. And then I'm going to see if we can do that on the other side. So I'm both rounding and rotating my spine, twisting my spine. Might feel like you're swiveling your hips a little bit. Maybe even looking down the ground behind you. And then when you're ready, you could also try now bringing the spine into that cow or camel shape position. And this time doing the same thing, bringing one hip to the shoulder and then the other. Maybe even taking that gaze a little bit back behind you over the shoulder. You can almost imagine you are doing this slow wagging of a tail, as if you were like a dog. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, we'll step the opposite leg now to the front side, just to the outside of your support. And again, just taking a moment to find your tripod. If you're doing this on a chair, we might not be stepping forward, but you could absolutely create a bit of a tripod with your chair and your two legs and create the same action. Wherever you decide to be, again, rooting through that support hand. Let's lift that arm up towards the ceiling, reaching again up. Mark your spot. And then take your arm, tuck it under, reaching back behind you, bending the elbow, any amount of that support arm. Maybe you're touching the floor, maybe you're not. That reach can be super, super far away. And then pressing, lifting up, and rounding and reaching back behind you. Let's do one more full sequence as we lift up, reach that point a little bit more, and then rounding underneath and reaching, maybe touching somewhere back behind you on the diagonal between your arm and your leg. And then last time, let's reach up and we'll pause, reaching up just a little bit more, pressing down through the support arm. Maybe taking a few breaths, experiencing that in the body. And then when you're ready, we'll bring that hand down, bring that knee back, and we're now going to come down onto the front side of our body. I'm going to show you a few different ways that we're going to approach this today. You practice yoga, this would be a familiar pose. We're coming into what's known as Sphinx. And so I want this to be more of a supportive Sphinx today. So you could try a couple different things to help you with that. So to begin, you could try bringing a block sort of underneath the lower part of your rib cage and just notice how that feels. The block may feel hard and jabby, so even a blanket over top of it may make those, may neutralize those sensations a little bit. And so with the arms, we're going to play with elbows under the shoulders to start with, my hands sort of parallel towards you. And I'm also going to try bringing my elbows, winging them out a little bit. So I'm kind of creating this diamond shape with my wrist, my elbow to my shoulder. So just pause there. Maybe wiggle the hips a little bit. And we're in this sort of supported back bend. And just notice how that feels. And if it's not a block you're using, it could also be a pillow that we're bringing under the rib cage, the lower part of the rib cage. It's okay if it comes up a little bit higher. Or even something like Cooper's toy, which he's loaned to me, this lovely pink unicorn, which always makes me smile. So just finding a support that allows you to kind of arrive into this Sphinx position. Legs are straight back behind you, maybe out on an angle. Sorry, they could be, your feet could be closer together, they could be further apart. Just wiggle the hips, sort of allow the legs to land where they land. And then when you're ready, bringing our attention back to our spine, can you bring a little bit of length into the back of your neck? So think about drawing your chin a little bit back into your throat. And then also thinking about drawing your tailbone, tucking your tailbone down towards your heels. And in doing so, you may feel that you've pressed your hips a little bit more into the floor. So trying to create a little bit more length in the spine. Pause here for another moment. Press your forearms, your hands into the ground. And then when you're ready, let's rotate the head and the gaze towards one side of your room, back through center to the other side of your room, back through center. And now we're going to draw that chin in even more. So now rounding out the back of the neck, pressing through the forearms. See if you can start to float or lift the front side of your ribs, your body, front side of your body, any amount, trying to round the spine like a cat spine up towards your ceiling. And then keep staying there for a moment. You might start to encounter some quivering or shaking. Can you press your hips a little bit more into the ground, rounding the spine up a little bit higher towards your ceiling, any amount. And then when you're ready, let's allow the front body to return, coming back into that first shape. Maybe give the hips a little bit of a wiggle. Taking a few breaths, notice any difference. And when you're ready, we'll repeat that on the other side. So sending the gaze towards one side of your room, back through center, and over towards the other side. So rotating at the neck, and back through center. And again, drawing that chin up now, rounding the neck, pushing the ground away with your forearm and hands, starting to float or lift your spine, rounding out through the front side of your body, any amount. I'm going to hold here for a moment. You're feeling a little of the shakes to see if you can hold on to that just for a few more moments. Coming out at any time, of course. And when you're ready, just allow the front body to land. Just pausing in our Sphinx shape for a few more breaths. You could even bring yourself a little lower, even supporting your head with your hands, or even lower. And then when you're ready, we'll just walk those hands, pressing ourselves up, coming back to a kneeling position. Any amount, whether it's a tall kneel or a low kneel. And the last thing we'll explore today is more of a vertical windmill as opposed to the one we did sideline. And again, you might want to bring some padding under your knees if you're going to take this movement on your knees. So I'm just sort of sitting in this tall kneel position like I was doing in bridge. I'm going to think about smoothing out the front sides of my pants and my t-shirt. We can also do this on our chair, where I'm going to sort of sit on the corner, and you'll see we'll extend one leg. So I've got one knee bent, one leg extended. Or even further, I can do this from standing where I'm going to bend into one knee, that knee and toe pointing towards one side of your room, and the other leg, the trailing leg, having the foot pointed more towards your screen. And you're going to support yourself with that front leg, that front arm. So those are two different options, and they're all just as good as the next. Just practice where you'd like to practice today. So if you're on your knees, and extend one leg out. I'm using my block again to support me as I sort of come into this side position. So my shoulder, my hip, and my straight leg are all sort of in one line, thereabouts. Again, you could do that. I'm reaching a little bit, but if the chair was closer, I could use the chair. And then when you're ready, whether the hands are on the elbow or you extend the arm long, just starting to bring those windmill circles into your body, any degree. So as you're rotating in and then opening the chest up, any amount. Really using that support hand, whether it's on the forearm, on a chair, or on your block, or even on the ground. Going in the opposite direction. Just allowing the spine to move, take the gaze with you. Just notice how this is now feeling, this different position. And then the next time you sort of come to rounding the spine towards the floor, let's take that free arm. We're going to lift it up towards your ceiling. Just pausing here, just for a moment to allow the settling of that movement in our body. Feel free to keep that movement going if you prefer not to pause. And if you're noticing any tension in your neck, you can maybe take your gaze towards me on the screen or down towards the floor. All are good places. One more moment of breath wherever you are. And then we'll transition to the other side. So if you notice that you were a little bit unstable that first side, just maybe play with where your block is and just notice that, does it feel more stable to have that block more in line with your landed knee and foot? Maybe, maybe not, but just explore that. That might help gather a little more stability for you. And again, let's just come to those windmills, exploring them in any way that you like. Noticing how this maybe feels different on this side. Different not being a bad or a good thing, just being different. And then in the opposite direction. And then again, you can keep moving if you like, or take that free arm and we'll just lift it up towards your ceiling. You could also keep and just have your elbow point towards the ceiling, whatever feels best for you. And then just positioning that gaze, your head, in any way that feels supportive for your neck. Just a few more moments here. A few more breaths. Really pressing into that support arm, lifting up through the elbow or hand, or keeping some movement. And then when you're ready, we'll lower that hand. And then whether you're on your knees or on a chair or standing up, again, just pausing the end of our movement practice. Observing yourself and your state of body, mind, spirit, energy at this point. And now we'll move into our little meditation. I'm going to come back a little closer to the screen so I can feel a little bit closer to y'all. But you can stay where you are on your mat. Maybe find another position for your body, whether that is in a seated position or on a chair or lying down. I'm going to experiment with what I call some self-hug with loving kindness meditation. And if you know that meditations are not your jam, it's totally cool too. You could check out right now or go into your journaling practice or even just participate through observation. I think we've got my camera back. Okay, so just take a few moments to get yourself comfortable and organized. Just going to share a little bit here before we get going, so no rush. As we've explored in, I think it was class 2, we used physical touch as a self-regulation technique, and the self-hug as a way to help you reconnect with your body, a reminder that we are more than just our head. We are a physical body taking up space in this world, and even redirecting some love and kindness back to ourselves if we find that hard to do. Your body doesn't actually know it's you giving itself a hug or touching itself. And soothing, safe touch also has the benefit of releasing the connection hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin is typically linked to warm, fuzzy feelings and shown in research to lower stress and anxiety. So I struggled with this type of technique at first, but I felt over time and with small increments of practice, I could really start to see the benefits of this. So do your best for the next 10 minutes or so. And if you need to stop at any point, stop at any point. So to begin, just go ahead and cross your arms. Hands land on the opposite arm, wherever they land. Just first notice how it feels to embrace yourself in this way. Might also feel nice, or not, but try to add in a bit of a rock or a sway, maybe even tapping the arms with the opposite hands. Just take a breath or two. Just notice what it feels like to breathe into your embrace like this. Maybe you're aware of the expansion of your body under your arms on that inhale. And maybe it feels okay to maybe hug yourself a little bit tighter on the exhale. Just experiment with that a little bit. And if you're feeling any resistance or tension or even anxiety at this point, it's totally okay and normal. See if you can continue to be with those feelings and sensations, knowing that at any point you can choose to do something else with your hands or even end the practice altogether. You could next choose to close your eyes. If you haven't already, just see how that feels. Or keep them open. Just try to soften the eyelids slightly. And again, come back to the embrace. Notice how things are feeling now. Maybe another breath or two into your embrace. And maybe even shifting your position. So, next, when you're ready, see if you can call to mind a person or a creature or even an experience that you feel love or fondness towards. Someone or thing that lights you up inside. Perhaps anyone or anything that you engage with that feels positive or pleasant, grounding or centering. Maybe that's a dear friend, a favorite song, or even your pet. As you bring this someone or thing to mind, you may sense a smile arrive on your face or sense your body relax a little bit, or even that warm and fuzzy sensation beginning to pool on your skin. And you might experience no change either, which is totally fine too. Does this person or creature or experience have a color, maybe a temperature, or a feeling tone in your body? See if you can sense into that a little bit more. See if you can amplify or enlarge whatever love or positive or pleasant feelings or images or sensations you may be experiencing in this moment. Can you make them a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter, a little bit warmer? You might imagine this all like liquid sunshine filling you up from the tips of your toes and fingers, through the core of your body, all the way to the crown of your head. Any amount, as much as you can. If you've noticed at any point your mind has wandered, it's totally natural and part of the experience. So if you are noticing this has happened, see if you can come back to that feeling of love or fondness, pleasantness in your body, or even imagine that warm liquid sunshine filling you up. Just a few more moments here. And when you're ready, start to bring your awareness back to the feeling of sitting, noticing the contact points between you and the supports below. Maybe you're aware of any sounds around you. Maybe even aware of any smells or aromas. Gently open the eyes if they are closed. And then just take another few moments to appreciate this pause you've taken, no matter how you engaged with it. Just appreciate the pause. And then we'll come back to our check-in after our movement practice and meditation. Starting with the mind, just noticing any shifts in the quality of your thoughts, your mental focus or clarity. Your body, what sensations are you most aware of now? Your breath, where are you experiencing it the most clearly now? And does it feel any different? Next, your emotions. What feelings are you most aware of now? Finally, your energy. Any shifts in the energy level? Remember, all of what you're reporting and noticing and observing is true. And then when you're ready, we'll assign that number to your state of being right now. 1, feeling low energy, spacey, shut down. 10, revved up, irritated, frustrated, cranky. 5, being just right, the sweet spot in this moment. So, just a few more ideas I want to share with you around stress proofing, and then we'll do a little journaling before we close. I believe these can immediately apply to the holidays ahead, but more broadly to life in general. I know it's true for me. First being honoring all the emotions that come up. There's often this idea of a certain way we should feel about holiday celebrations. Whatever you feel is valid and true. And if you're feeling sad and overwhelmed, let yourself feel those feelings. If you're feeling excited and festive and also overwhelmed, own that too. And feeling neutral or no emotional attachment to them, that's great too. Honor your need to be with others, to be alone, or to skip the holiday season altogether. So honor you. Also, setting boundaries with yourself to simplify things. So if you have too many things going on or have a habit of overcommitting yourself, that's a potential recipe for stress overload. And like I shared in class number 3, flipping your lid. So how can we look for ways to simplify this year? Just offer a few suggestions and ideas. These are certainly not limited in any way. Perhaps it's paring down on the number of invitations you say yes to. That includes Zoom parties and other online social gatherings. These can be even more draining than in person interactions, especially if you already spend hours on screens in other areas of your life. Could you order your holiday dinner out this year as opposed to cooking and cleaning up after a more traditional meal? And then perhaps considering paring down the holiday decor, the gift giving, the card sending, really insert whatever may apply for you here. Setting boundaries with yourself also means tuning out external messages. It can be really hard not to be influenced by all the marketing ads of families surrounded with tons of presents, wearing new coordinated pajamas, looking all happy and joyous without a COVID care in the world. These ads are lovely and they can also be deflating, especially if you don't see or feel yourself in them. So, could you take a purposeful break from screen time and social media? Finally, do something just for you each and every day. Don't forget to prioritize togetherness and giving to yourself so that you can be together in giving towards others. And two last things that I think are really important. Try to keep in mind that your boundaries are for you and how people react is for them. And if you feel overwhelmed, know that your plans can always be tweaked and everything is an option because the holidays can be whatever you want them to be. So we'll spend maybe about 5 minutes now with a closing journal activity. You can go ahead and grab your journal and go right into a journaling practice if you already have one, or follow the prompts I'm going to share here. The first prompt is just noticing shifts in any of the 5 points of observation today between the start of practice and the end of practice, and even compared to last class, have you been tracking that? The second prompt is, does any movements or activities in today's practice feel beneficial or soothing or brought about a sense of ease and comfort in your body? And then the last one being, if you are feeling stressed about the holidays or anything else right now, is there a boundary you might set for yourself? Whether that is no screens allowed in the bedroom, sticking to a personal budget or sleep schedule, not responding to work stuff on days off or after a certain time in your day, limiting time on social media, all those things. So I'm going to drop those prompts into the chat because I know I said them quickly. So this will help you if you're following along on the prompts. Just make sure they're not all smushed together in one text because I don't think that'll be helpful. So there's the first one. There's the second one. And there's the third one coming. You don't have to run with all those prompts. And again, you can run with whatever is coming up for you right now. So we'll just spend the next 5 minutes or so journaling. Just another minute or so, just to wrap up where you're at. You could always continue to journal after our class closes today if you need more time. All right. So, as we come to a close, I just want to sort of remind us and leave us with a few parting words, as it were, I guess. But stress proofing is an active process that includes prioritizing yourself, practicing self-regulating skills and activities like the ones we've been doing over the last few weeks, and setting boundaries for yourself. And when you can intentionally lighten your stress load by creating boundaries, this will help you access agency and be able to have more choice and voice in every single situation, no matter how challenging or stressful the situation may be. So as we close the final practice today, we'll do so with our mantra, I am strong, I am capable, I'm resilient. So just coming back to remind yourself of what a comfortable seat feels like. You might need to just adjust some things. You could also return to a self-regulation tool today, like the self-hug or from a previous class or any one that you like to do. So just take a moment to find a place for yourself where you can experience some comfort and ease for the next few moments. And when you're ready, you can repeat out loud with me or silently in your mind. We'll go for 3 rounds. I'll start our mantra now. I am strong, I am capable, I am resilient. I am strong, I am capable, I am resilient. I am strong, I am capable, I am resilient. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you've been sort of on the journey, I appreciate you so much. Thank you to a few chat messages there. I really do hope you found this and any of the other classes in this series helpful, and even bring some of the ideas and concepts I've shared into your everyday life. Please also feel free to share my YouTube channel with anyone else you think may benefit from this stuff. I also love hearing from you. My inbox is always open to your questions and feedback about what I'm sharing. So here's to some happy and restful moments during the coming weeks. Take care of yourself and each other. Until next time, be well, my friends.